Hello, and welcome to another video in the series about the truth sheet. And the truth sheet, for those of you who may have watched another video already, is creating a playbook for your life, like an accountant would for your finances, only it's a life balance sheet. And we call it a truth sheet because, well, we're trying to tell ourselves the truth. And what are some of the things that we would have on that truth sheet? And we've talked about concepts like assets and liabilities, and we've talked about support systems and good questions. And today we're going to talk about recognizing your recurring themes and the unfinished business of your life. Now, if we step back a second to try to understand what psychology is, and there's a boatload of models out there, right? Let's see, Piaget's model of development, Dr. Freud and psychoanalysis and five-trait theory. There's the Enneagram, the Myers-Briggs, the list goes on. And I would also add to that list the course I developed called Vital Mind, which is also a psychological model. But here's the real thing about psychology. What it boils down to is the study of patterns. That's what we're looking at, the study of patterns. And the recurring themes and unfinished business in life, those are the patterns in our life. Now, if you're 20 years old watching this, you haven't lived long enough to know what your patterns are, most likely. But you can still listen because you'll be getting there soon enough. Now, if you're 30, you probably got some inkling. And by 40, you definitely know what some of those themes of your life are and some of the unfinished business. And by 50, I can only hope we've been working on reconciling some of them before it's too late to do anything about it, or you just don't have it in you to change. Your life is so set the way it is, good, bad, and otherwise. But let's say it's not, and let's say you want to get at it and get on with it. Let's do that. Life's recurring themes and their underlying issues, they start to stick out at some point. And life will present them like a carousel ride. And it's like every time we circle around the carousel, it might take us 5 years or 10 years. There's a sense that these themes, this unfinished business, and some underlying lessons start over again. This kind of explains the lesson in the adage, whenever we close a door, a new one opens. See, we have to conclude our unfinished business, close these doors to allow new opportunities to emerge. And we might review why certain particular doors stayed open for so long. Now, there's a lot of learning styles, right? There's visual learners and auditory learners and kinesthetic learners. That's the hands-on and kind of getting it through the body. I offer there are music learners, that we listen to music and we learn through music. And if you're one of those, I suggest, I'll put the link down below. There's a band called Seminsonic from around 2000, and they did a song called Closing Time. Big hit, great song, fabulous lyrics. But the line that really matters is every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Isn't it great the way music can just put it right on the head of a pin? So, working through life's recurring themes is a reflection of our life history being repeated out over and over, elements of things that we're trying to work on, consciously or unconsciously. And guess what? We're going to get tested. And the tests will continue until the lesson is truly learned. An example that comes to my mind, working with a client, was a very successful businessman working for a large firm and in management, and he was a single guy, and his work was really his life and his identity. I mean, he was all about his work and he was good at it. And a lot of times we gravitate towards what we're good at and avoid what we're not. And his whole lifestyle was fashioned around this, and he kind of was avoiding other areas of life like relationships and like hobbies and just generally having fun. So as I worked with him, I realized, getting the context of this man, that his father, whom he loved and respected, revered really, he emphasized success. And to him, this is what you did. You worked, and you worked hard, and you worked all day, and you worked the next day. And the son wanted to model that because he wanted to earn his love. And he ultimately embraced his father's outlook. But as he began to examine this attitude, his point of view started evolving. And he got to a place, and it wasn't overnight, but it happened. And he's like, it's okay to have more than just a job. Life is more than that. I am more than that. And I'm like, we're good to go now. And he was kind of elated by having that revelation. And you know what happened 3 days later? He got laid off. But because he had acquired and was starting to commit to a larger perspective, he actually handled the news pretty well after the initial shock wore off. And he started working towards and found a job that was aligned with his emerging purpose of a more holistic life. So the unfinished business of his life, which was the stuff about not work, was starting to come forward, and he stepped into it, and good for him. We have to examine everything that's still up in the air. The chronic, long-term problems and the current issues that run their courses over and over and over. And this can be relationship conflicts, unfinished projects at home or work, legal or medical issues with serious ramifications and consequences for continued delay. So if we were to list our unresolved, unfinished life aspects and their underlying issues, we would also want to include unfulfilled wishes. See, unfulfilled matters of life, they waste our energy and they dissipate our focus and they preclude our staying in present time. And what remains incomplete or unfinished about life has a way of reappearing and reappearing, and it draws us back in. So let's think about like one or two core items that might need some resolving. Could be a relationship with somebody, could be some project, it could be some idea that you've had about doing something. So keep your focus narrow to mitigate against being overwhelmed. So the effects of unfinished business now, they're going to dissipate that energy and tension and focus. They're going to prevent our staying in present time, and they're going to tend to maintain our arrested development. And we all got arrested development. And one of the great ways of getting at it is looking at what's unfinished about our life. And an example that comes to my mind regarding that is a person who was a carpenter and a cabinet maker. And this man really wanted to be an artist. He wanted to be an oil painter. And in his teens, he was putting out some nice quality stuff, pen and inks and some nice oil paintings. But the challenge was he grew up in a time and a place that discouraged men where he was and where he was being raised. It discouraged men from doing art. And he also had a strong physique, and he lived in a tough neighborhood. And so the messages he got was that being an artist wasn't appropriate when, real jobs existed. So he became ill during his adult life, and as he got sicker, with time, he would paint sporadically as a hobby, mostly when he was too sick to physically work. And when he became disabled and could no longer work, guess what he ended up doing? Yeah, he painted. It's ironic. The very passion he had early in life, he could finally pursue. He even made money doing it. And it helped to support his family, and it was needed and necessary. So his illness gave him permission to be an artist again. And nobody, especially himself, could say, well, why aren't you working out there, man? His illness effectively removed that argument. So supporting the family, selling the art, provided more validation to go ahead and get on with it. And that was no longer unfinished business. So our unfinished business and the wishes we have will point us towards what we really want and have always desired to do. And life has a way of conspiring to bring us back to them. And that bell can only mean one thing. It's time for some homework. And the question today is, what are some of the recurring themes and some of the unfinished business in your life? Start with low-hanging fruit. Simple things, easy things, gain momentum. There's a reason why that big elephant in the room right over my shoulder has been there for the last 5 years, because we don't want to deal with it. Okay, got it. That's okay. For now, let's build some momentum, strength, character, courage, time on task, ability, and more by working on some things that we really do need to clean up. And let's close some of these doors so we can start opening some new ones. Because when we do, we're going to be ready to enjoy the game of life. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Put a comment down below about some unfinished piece of business that you have just finished. See you in the next video.